What is going on, everybody? I appreciate you taking the time out of your Thursday evening here to kind of check in on a mid-season Orioles report. Obviously, there's a lot to go over, so let's get right into it.
Big town sport, yeah, we run the O's talk. Best of Baltimore, yeah, you know we don't stop. If you rock with the birds, hit subscribe right now. Orange and black, we leading the crowd.
All right, so I started a little poll here. Can the Orioles get themselves right here in the second half and make a playoff push? I see a bunch of no's already, but you know what? We're going to get into it tonight. I'm going to look at some things here. We're going to grade, some of the free agent signings that we've made so far this year. We're going to grade, obviously the play of some of the players. We're going to grade Mike Elias. We're going to grade Craig Albanez. We're going to kind of go over some of the hot topics that we've seen here in the first 81 games of the season and kind of see where your guys' thoughts are. So let's dive right into it, right? This team is underperforming, to say the least. I think that's the nicest way to say it. Going into this season, we were kind of given World Series aspirations by David Rubenstein. Mike Elias and David had talked about, money's no object. They can go get the guys they want. And, we heard them, they were in on Ranger Suarez. They had a very competitive offer with Kyle Schwarber that got beat at the last minute. They did sign Ryan Helsley and Pete Alonso. They went out and did some things that they said they were going to do. And it almost kind of still feels like last year in a way. So we got to figure out why. What went wrong? What happened? A lot of people have, kind of given Craig Albanez they're kind of taking the benefit of the doubt away from his first year. A lot of people wanted a veteran manager, and we're going to get into some of that stuff here. So we'll start with that. So, obviously with Albanez being probably the most important signing of the offseason, it really doesn't matter what they did free agent-wise. Most people wanted a veteran manager. Myself, I like Craig Albanez, even after some of the stuff that's happened this year. And that's just my opinion. Bullpen stuff, look, managers are going to lose games with bullpen decisions. It just happens. You can look around the league. Philly just the other night scored, 7 runs in the top of the ninth? These things happen. So I'm not going to hold too much against him on that. I feel like he's done pretty well in other facets of the game. I think there's some things that you can hold him accountable for. Obviously, one being the defense being really bad. It seemed like it kind of got better for the last couple weeks. And then, this road trip, we saw a couple more blunders out there. So, but all in all, I would say the defense has been, I guess, subpar is probably the best way to say it. I don't want to say they've been terrible because obviously, Pete Alonso coming in, that's all you heard about was he's not a good defender. Mets fans were kind of laughing about it. He's arguably been the best defender on the team. Kobe Mayo, for most of the start of the season, looked very well at third base. He made a couple really nice plays. Blaze Alexander come in. Obviously, he's more of a glove kind of guy, but he's made some great plays. I don't think really anybody really expected Jeremiah Jackson to play an adequate second base. We kind of valued him more as like a bat, maybe an outfielder. And then he's played, I would say, maybe average to above average second base defense. Not great. He's made some bad plays, but, for the most part, I would say that most guys on the team have played decent, not great, decent. The outfield, obviously, for a long time was abysmal. Taylor Ward looked lost sometimes in left field. Beavers was really struggling there before he got hurt. They had to turn to Leody Taveras just to kind of settle the outfield defense down. And it worked for a good bit. Leody played a really good center fielder for several weeks. And then, I feel like the longer he's played, the more opportunities that he's had to make a couple of mistakes. And he's made a couple. I'm not saying that he's been a bad player, bad outfitter, or anything like that. But he's made some mistakes, and they've been a little magnified. And Basayo's defense, again, coming in, we knew that he was a guy that needed to learn behind the plate but he was there for his bat. There was nothing else that could make his bat any better in AAA. But you knew he had to learn a pitching staff, had to learn how to catch, all that stuff. I would even say that Basayo's defense, above average from what we expected. The problem is you had your superstars like Gunnar Henderson, and it's not that he hasn't played bad. I mean, I pulled the numbers, and actually Gunner's the second best defender on the team, and I don't know if that's like a good thing or a bad thing. But by defensive value, he's a 6.5, which is pretty decent. I mean, Rutschman's a 7.8. So in my eyes, I think Gunner's playing pretty good. And I'm actually going to sort this here by shortstops and see where he ranks overall. Let's do 10 innings, and we'll take the Orioles off of here. I just want to see where he ranks league-wide as far as defense goes. So defensively, he's ranked as the 8th best shortstop in baseball. And I don't think anybody here would tell you that or argue with you if you would have said Gunnar Henderson's the best shortstop in baseball. I think we knew that he was he was a very good shortstop. And I mean, he obviously was never what Bobby Witt was or Andres Jimenez or anything like that. Colson Montgomery's had a good year. But, him and Ellie De La Cruz are probably more formidable with each other. More offense than defense. But both of them are ranked in the top 10. So I think you take that as a win right now, even though Gunner's had some struggles. And I feel like most of his struggles are coming in on the ball and then maybe a little bit towards up the middle. And I think Jackson Holliday's struggles are also the same, kind of going up towards the middle a little bit. But when you kind of see where they both line up, they kind of pinch the middle too, which is kind of odd. But either way, I mean, if Gunner was playing at a 6.5 defensive value here with 5 outs above average, which looks to be, what is that considered by all shortstops here? Tied for 7th. So 7th most outs above average by a shortstop. None of us would complain whatsoever if Gunner was hitting adequately. He's not. And that's been, honestly, some of the biggest issues that the Orioles have had this entire season has been on the shoulders of Gunnar Henderson. Now, they brought in Pete Alonso to be the face of the franchise. Let's be kind of honest there. I don't think they thought Gunnar could handle it. And maybe Gunnar feels the extra pressure because he does want that role. I don't know. It isn't working, though. But, I mean, again, if Gunnar kind of gets the offense going a little bit, I think we're all very pleased with the kind of player that he is. Now, there was a lot of rumors around that he was going to make $400, $500 million or whatnot. Listen, that's Scott Boras's job to create those rumors and to get people wound up and talking about that kind of stuff. That's his job. That's what he's supposed to do for his guy. Gunnar Henderson was never going to sign a $500 million contract. He just wasn't. I think the Bobby Witt deal, maybe slightly below that, is a formidable thing for Gunnar Henderson. Ellie De La Cruz, too. You can argue all you want that he can make $400, $500. He's not. He's not. Those $700, $600, $500 million contracts, listen, I know it was a while ago, but you're not beating Manny Machado's contract. You're just not. So, but the player that he is, I think if he starts to hit a little bit, if Gunnar finishes the season around 250, I think you're very happy with what he's done offensively and defensively. The biggest thing has just been the start of the season. Him and Pete at the same time were just terrible. But, so that's a lot of the bad grade that I would say. And how much of that falls on Alvarez and how much of that falls on Miguel Cairo. That's where I kind of get confused on, could you blame them? Sure. You could, sure. But you also have to look at all the other positives that these guys have made with everybody else around that. So it's kind of a give and take there when you start blaming people. But it falls flat on Gunnar, to be completely honest with you. It falls flat on Gunnar. He's had a very rough year, and he'll admit it to you. If he gets himself going, the Orioles are in a good spot. He hasn't quite gotten himself going right now, and I think that's why the Orioles are in the spot that they're in. Now, starting pitching early on wasn't great. It's turned a corner, and it's been really good. It's been really holding its own. The bullpen went through some injuries and whatnot, and I think they got a little overused because of how the starters were to start the season. But they're kind of seeming to be, getting a little healthier. Still some question marks out there, which was some of our biggest question marks to start the season. But I did want to touch on Grant Wolfram. And I liked Grant coming in. I mean, he's got great stuff, right? It's all we ever heard about was Grant's stuff. how would it translate to the field, right? Well, right now, Wolfram has the 5th highest WAR among pitchers, which I think is pretty good because everybody above him is all a starter. So he's considered the best bullpen arm that we have per WAR standards. Now, he's got a pretty decent ERA. What's he got here right now? 3.63, sorry. But he's got a 1.67 FIP. And one of my favorite stats, the SIRA, he's got a 2.23, or 2.72, I'm sorry. 2.23 is Kramer, but he hasn't pitched enough. 2.72 SIRA score, which is, by SIRA score standards, elite. And it takes a lot of different things into consideration here. But it's kind of weird, too, because when you look at some of his metrics, right, he's only got a 63% left on base percentage. So he's allowing guys to score, but yet the FIP and the XFIP and the SIR and all is really good. He's an interesting case, but he's throwing the ball well. But there's a lot of question marks around. Andrew Kittredge got hit around one game. Who just gifted me 5? Charm City, gifting 5 memberships here in the middle of a stream. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you very much. It looks like Orioles fan 72, Pikachu got one, Thomas Downey, Kamia Toes, Real Stick, and then that was it right there. Thank you very much for gifting those people a membership. I truly appreciate that. And, everybody else, thank him in the chat as well if you got a membership from him. Also, don't forget to like the live stream. We got 9 right now, and there's a bunch of you in here. So if you're in there, drop a like on the stream. I appreciate it. If you're new here, drop a sub because we do this kind of stuff all the time. And actually, we run a show every Sunday night. We talk a lot of good Orioles baseball here. But get back on track here. The pitching. This is where we can kind of start blaming or looking straight at Mike Elias, right? Because we knew the bullpen this year was potentially going to be a problem. Right now, the bullpen has been fairly good. And I'm not saying they've been great, and I'm not saying they've been bad. They've blown their share of games, and this is where a lot of Craig Albanese gets some heat is who he picks in the bullpen and whatnot. Here's the problem with all of that combined here right now. We don't know as fans, and part of this is the Orioles' fault because of how secretive they are. They don't like to talk about much. They don't tell the beat reporters much. They don't tell Masson much. They don't tell the fans a whole lot. So we're kind of here left guessing a lot. And we don't know who is and who's not available in the bullpen every night. We can look at, when the last time a guy pitched and whatnot and think, oh, he's definitely available. That's not always the case, right? So when Craig makes a questionable call, at that time, that guy might have been the only person for that moment that was up. That's the only thing I'll say about that because, yes, Craig has made a lot of questionable calls this year, but sometimes we just don't know the circumstances, and they don't talk about it for us to really know, so we're just here hating everybody. But for the most part, Dietrich Enns had a really rough start to this season. He, by SIRA standards, should be in AA. He had a 5.41 SIRA score, which is one of the worst in baseball. And Trey Gibson actually right now has also probably a bottom 10 SIRA score as well. He's had a pretty rough season. So, dude, again, another 5. Thank you so much, Tron. I appreciate it. I really do. So it looks like we got Bobby Y, PM Apostic, Matt Justo, Wave Sirius, and Lacknut also were gifted a membership from Charged City Entertainment. Dude, appreciate that. I really do. Thank you so much. And I see you telling people to like and subscribe and stuff like that from the bottom of my heart. I do truly appreciate it. Albert Suarez, another guy close to a 5 SIRA. So some parts of this bullpen has been bad. It's been bad. But, when you look at, like, Anthony Nunez got sent down. Anthony Nunez, I do think, is a very good reliever, and he's going to have a fantastic career. The stuff is great. I think early on, when Ryan Helsley went down, you didn't have Kittredge early. He was kind of thrusted into that. Now, we're talking about a guy who had very limited innings in AAA, even being a pitcher. Right, so he was kind of thrusted into a role, and he came in and did really well early because honestly nobody knew his stuff and where it was going to move and whatnot. And it was just right into the 8th inning role. immediately. And that's a lot to take on for a guy. But, for a good bit, he pitched pretty well. And then one either got figured out or two just got tired. And I think it may have been a little bit of both. Guys got some film on them. They may have started maybe picking up some, tipping the pitches and whatnot. I don't know. But they figured him out. But he's still sitting at a 3.5 SIERA score, which is above average in Major League Baseball. Kittredge right now is throwing well. He's a 3.49. Tyler Wells is throwing better. I thought Tyler Wells would be a little bit better than he is. He's been effective most of the time. I'd say 80% of the time he's been effective. I was expecting just a little bit more. Maybe my expectations were a little too high for Tyler Wells, especially coming off injury. But overall, 3.21 SIERA score is pretty good. It's above average Major League Baseball. Rico Garcia at a 3.02. I think he's starting to get tired. He's giving up giving up runs in 5 straight outings or something like that. But Cano and Wolfram are considered elite right now. So right now, the bullpen, I think, is in a spot that we kind of expected it outside of Ryan Helsley. I think Helsley's going to have to settle himself down a little bit. And that would get things going. But for the most part, I think we should be somewhat pleased with where our bullpen is at, considering we thought it was going to be a big disaster to kind of start the season. At least I did. There wasn't enough here. There just wasn't enough for me to think that we were ready to contend with this bullpen, and that's on Mike. And he may or may disagree. There's a point where you have to kind of want to see what you have, and there's also a point where you have to kind of go after it too. I think they were kind of stuck in the middle. They went after it, obviously bringing back Kittredge and Helsley, but you were kind of stuck in a rock and a hard place there to see, what was Cano going to give you? What was Garcia going to give you? What was Wolfram going to give you? Because that really could have blew up in your face. Thankfully, it hasn't so far. But yeah. So look, I'm reading some of these guys, and I don't disagree with this. Mike Elias has had 8 years to rebuild. Give or take the first 2, because obviously that's when you come in and kind of make wholesale changes and whatnot. The no playoff wins is a big thing. And obviously these last 2 years, it leaves a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth. And rightfully so. Rightfully so. The team should be in a better spot than it is. Now, contracts-wise, I think they've tried. They've done a decent job. Drafting started off well, and then it didn't. But a lot of that was what? I think a lot of that's player development. Now, we're kind of jumping around over here, but we'll get back to some of that stuff. But I mean, for the most part, I think by standards, everything is going pretty well. But one thing I really wanted to touch on, right? And we caught a lot of flack for the Shane Baz trade. A lot of flack. Mike did too. They gave up a lot to give him, right? And I get that. I was a big Austin Avern fan. I was a big Michael Ferret fan. I heard mixed things on Caden Bodine with some attitude issues and whatnot, but obviously you can't argue the numbers is what he's putting up right now. You just can't argue that. But Shane Baz right now leads the team in pitching WAR with a 1.6. And I believe team WAR, he is like 4th, maybe 3rd. So overall, Shane Baz is doing pretty good for the O's, with some exceptions. Now, hearing that, right, because we kind of see the guy continuously give up runs every outing, to him to have the highest WAR, how does that make you feel? Because that confuses me a little bit, because I'm with you guys. I see him giving up runs, and I see a guy that should be better than he is right now, but I also acknowledge the fact that he, at times, has disgusting stuff. He has the stuff that we were led on to believe, that ace-type potential. Right? It's not easy to throw 97, 98 with some run to it, but he does get hit hard sometimes. But to look at that and look at the season that Brandon Young is having, and for Brandon Young to only have a 1.1 WAR, why? Why does Bradish only have a 1.2? Like, those are the things that kind of get me a little questioned there. So, but when I look at it, like Brandon Young's xFIP is a 4.72, right? But his ERA is a 3.07. So is he getting a little lucky? Maybe. The FIP is a 3.96. So overall, pretty good. Again, we touched on Grant Wolfram. Trevor Rogers has a 1.0 WAR. with a 5.3 ERA. Not really sure how. His FIP is only a 4.25, so he is getting a little unlucky at times. But, when you look down the list here, some of this stuff is a little weird when you look in some of the numbers and whatnot. But the biggest thing that I wanted to touch on, right? So the off-season acquisitions. Shane Baz right now, 1.6 WAR. I'd say that's pretty freaking good. Chris Bassett, a 0.3. Yeah, he hasn't had the best year so far. I expect a little bit more out of Chris Bassett for being, for what he has done in this league. It sucks watching guys have successful seasons the year prior. And then, granted, I know their age, and we do tend to sign a lot of old guys, and that's a Mike Elias problem. But at some point, you watch guys like Scherzer and Verlander still go places in their age and still pitch effectively, but guys just keep coming here at their old age and just not performing. And it gets a little annoying. I'm not blaming anybody for that. It's just that's so O's. I guess you could put a hashtag on that. But, and then we'll say like Trey Gibson, I guess you can consider him we'll say Ryan Helsley is a point or negative 0.2 WAR. I think a lot of that has been because he's only had 13 innings, but he's given up some home runs. But go back to the offense here. So, I screwed myself up. I switched everything all up. I wanted to see just the Orioles. Right here. And obviously Taylor Ward is a 1.4. I think he's had an okay season. Let's not do fielding. Let's go back to hitting here. Batting and dashboard WAR. So Gunnar Henderson right now leads the team at a 2.1 WAR for hitters. Adley Rutschman at 2.0. Not where you expect either one of those players. So, Adley's had a good year defensively. I mean, all the credit in the world to Coach Joe Singley. Framing, throwing, all that, Adley's been much better at. We're still waiting for the offense to kind of get back to where it was once day. We saw it not a lot, but we saw it a good bit this year. You want to kind of get back. Pete Alonso, 1.9 WAR. Obviously, the big offseason acquisition. Hitting the ball for power finally. Driving in some runs, got 55 RBIs, and I believe that's pretty close already to the team leader all of last season, which was like mid-60s or something. Taylor Ward, I said 1.4. Blaze Alexander at a 1.1. So as much as we want to kind of hate on Mike a little bit, now these WARs aren't great. Don't get me wrong. They're not great. But, 3 of your offseason acquisitions are in your top 5. So in terms of WAR goes. So give him a touch bit of credit for that. Now, let's be honest. If I was a GM, I would have signed Pete Alonso too. So it wasn't like that was, some diamond in the rough thing. Blaze Alexander, that's a diamond in the rough kind of acquisition right now. I was a big Cade Stroud fan, and I thought the bullpen was in shambles, and to get rid of a guy that looked good in our bullpen it's my fault for not knowing enough about this guy, but that trade has proved to be good value right now. Now, Taylor Ward, I'd sit here until I'm blue in the face to tell you that was a great trade, just regardless, just to get Grayson out of town. But I've picked on Taylor Ward a little bit this year. I've picked on him, and I know a lot of you guys on Twitter have read it. I like the player, right? We knew what you were getting defensively, and you knew you had to kind of put up with a little bit. I got dog hair stuck in my eye or something. You knew you had to kind of put up with a little bit of bad defense with Taylor Ward. We expected good offense. And this is kind of why I'm a little hard on him. He has been one of the only guys getting on base, which is at times great because the Orioles struggle overall to get on base, like bad. And I believe I pointed this out earlier. I tweeted it yesterday, and I made a short about it, about how bad it was. Yeah, so they rank, this is since 520, but this is overall. Overall, they're 23rd in OPS with bases empty. So they struggle to get on base. Once they do, they're a top 5 offense. They're actually third. They're the third best offense with runners on. And that basically means just a guy on first base. But they have the third highest OPS. I think it was 791 with a guy on first. And then they were 9th best. I think it was 770. 770 OPS with runners in scoring position. So the offense has actually been pretty good with runners in scoring position. That's been a hot topic this year. But, all in all, the offense has been pretty good. And I think when they have been good is when they've missed Gunnar Henderson hitting with runners in scoring position, because he's kind of stunk this year. I'm not going to sugarcoat that too much. Gunnar's had a bad year, and he's held the team back a little bit offensively. Some of his errors and whatnot have hurt the team, but a lot of this falls on Gunnar Henderson. A lot of it fell on Pete Alonso early. Gunnar and Pete early on, it was ugly to watch. Ugly to watch with runners in scoring position. But, all in all, let me try and pick up what they're at this year, at least for, what's his face? I want to see what Gunnar is. I haven't checked in a while. 2026. Gunnar Henderson is hitting, so he's hitting 271, which is okay. Just 17 RBIs and 71 at-bats. Not great, right? Pete Alonso leading the team with 35 and 86. I'm sorry, Gunnar Henderson at 59. So he's got a couple walks. He's got 9 walks. So 59 at-bats, he's got 17 RBIs. Pete Alonso, 86 at-bats at 35 RBIs. I think we can sit here and look each other in the eye and say Pete Alonso probably should have 45 RBIs with how bad he was with runners in scoring position to start the season. I have dog hair all over me, it feels like. And I can't find it, and it's tickling me. So if I keep touching myself in the face, I apologize. And I am going to get to a lot of your comments here. There's just a lot to go over. And you guys, golly, we got 117 comments already. You guys are fantastic. I appreciate every one of you. It's a lot to get through, though. I will try my best to get through it, though. Taylor Ward, and this is where I've kind of, it's a double-edged sword here, because I've been kind of banging the table all year to get Taylor Ward to swing more with runners in scoring position instead of looking for a walk. Now, he has 16 walks to 18 Ks. Great, right? He is only hitting 170 or 185. Orioles fan KY, I see you're celebrating 5 months of a membership. 100%. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that. If anybody else is willing to become a member, I know Charm City's gifted out 10 tonight. It's truly appreciated. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. I don't have a ton available right now. It just helps me to be able to come down here and just chat with you guys. So everything that I do get goes back into the stream. Just know that. Paying for the service and whatnot, trying to figure out, I've been trying to figure out a way that I have a 3D printer. I've been trying to figure out a way to print these little bag tags. I don't know what the hell you guys would use them for, but that's some of the things that I want to give out to some of my members someday. I keep playing around with the 3D printer when I have time. I haven't had a lot of time, but anyway, yes. So if you guys want to do that, I appreciate that. But yeah, all in all, I want Taylor Ward to swing more, but he kind of stinks when he does too. But the problem is you're hitting lead off in the 2-hole and you had Gunnar behind you, and Gunnar wasn't doing any better. Just swing the bat. Don't look for a walk. But at times, I get it. There's a time and a place for it. Even with all the walks, he still only had a 370 on base percentage. Blaze Alexander, runners in scoring position, is the best with a 404. He's also the best with an OPS at a 999. Leody Tavares is the second best. Who would have put that on paper to start the year, right? You would have figured Gunnar Henderson, Pete Alonso would have been your top 2. Maybe Samuel Basayo could have kind of squeaked in there. Nope, it's Tavares and Blaze Alexander. Great pickups, but that's not where your offense needs to be. And it's probably why we have some issues. Kobe Mayo kind of hankering down the bottom down here with a 654 OPS with runners in scoring position. Dude is lights out against lefties. They got to get something going here for righties, because there's just too much talent just to be a Lane Thomas, where you're just kind of only hitting against lefties. Just too much talent there for me. But all in all, Pete Alonso, 743 OPS. Gunnar Henderson, that's your 6th and 7th best OPS as runners in scoring position. 753 and 743. And Alonso leads the team in RBIs, right? So you need more out of the middle of your order. And I've said it a couple times. I think this lineup is due for a little bit of a shakeup. And a lot of that's because of Gunnar Henderson. I don't think he belongs in the 2-hole right now. Who else do you put there? I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know at all. Maybe you could slide Blaze in there, but do you want to? Because Blaze is really performing down where he's hitting. Sometimes you don't want to kind of ruffle up too much, but you got to get Gunnar Henderson out of 2-hole. Got to get him out of there. But all in all, Off-season acquisitions. That was a long rant for off-season acquisitions, and I apologize about that. What would you guys give that? I think I'd give it a B. I think a B is fair because guys they're not blowing off the charts, but they're not terrible. I think they've been pretty serviceable. I mean, obviously, Blaze Alexander and Leody Tavares has to bump that up, right? Because they're considered off-season acquisitions. You know, I mean, Pete's been Pete. Taylor's been Taylor. I think you got to give the all-season acquisitions a B, including the pitching. And the pitching's been pretty serviceable. And all in all, I think you give Mike Elias a B for the offseason. Maybe a B minus. It just depends. It just depends how you look at it. And look, if you said C, I probably wouldn't argue. And if you said A minus, I'd probably look at you funny and I wouldn't argue it. You know, it just depends. So for me, a B on the offseason acquisitions. So let me touch on this real quick. How much leeway does Elias have to be a hard buy or sell at the deadline? Is he if he tried to be really aggressive, would ownership let him? You always should be aggressive, regardless, right? Even if they're 5-6 games out. I've always been under the assumption that you should try to make your team better in some way. And that's like, prospects are cool, but we're past that point. But you can still acquire guys that have a year or two control left to make next year's team better. So yeah, I would tell him to be aggressive. Go find me a guy. Go find me a starting pitcher who's got one more year of control. I don't care. Go find me a bat that's got another year of control that I can plug in center field or third base somehow. I don't care. I don't care if you empty the farm a little bit and bring me a guy with 3-4 years control. I don't care. Be aggressive and make the team better, obviously now, but next year too. Always be aggressive, in my opinion. Let's touch on Craig, right? We kind of touched on Craig a little bit. Craig and his staff, I think, have done a pretty good job. Now, not great, but not completely terrible. Again, bullpen, I think all managers kind of screw that up sometimes. That's a hard way to kind of judge a manager. I think he gets a lot of hate because of some of the things that he says. And I think that's more of an Orioles thing because Brandon Hyde and Manzolino kind of said the same stuff. They dance around everything. They don't give the fan base. They keep everything secretive. And that might just be like an organizational thing. And that's fine. It really is. But it kind of opens you up to this criticism that they get all the time. And I see people always saying like he doesn't have his players' backs and whatnot. And there's certain situations where you do and you don't. I haven't really seen a whole lot this year where I expect a guy to kind of run out. Now, I would have got myself personally tossed in Toronto with that whole tag play thing. That's different. Yeah, you lose your ever-loving mind there. You take second base out and back to the dugout with you for all I care. Dig up home plate. You know, you making a fool out of yourself for a call like that. At least I would. But, you know, all in all, I can't really complain too much of some of the guys that he brought in. And this is, I'm looking bigger picture here, right? You bring in Joe Singley. I think Joe Singley's done a really good job. Really good job with the catchers, right? That's got to be a check plus to Craig there. Jason Voorhees right now, obviously outfield defense, fundamentals of it, pretty piss poor to start the beginning of the year. Base running, god awful for a good long time there. Seems to have gotten a little better. But all in all, I would give that one probably like a C minus, maybe a D, right? Room for improvement, but right now that's been the area of struggle for a lot of the offense and the team right there. Hank Conger in the bullpen, I can't really sit here and tell you that I know exactly what a bullpen coach does, but I think the bullpen for, with the injuries that they've had and whatnot, for the most part has been pretty serviceable. So, I mean, Hank Conger, I don't know how you grade a bullpen coach, but, whatever. We'll give him a B+. Donnie Ecker, I feel like has been a big win for this baseball team. He's done a lot. He's very good with game planning and the videography side of things and whatnot. I think he's done a pretty fantastic job. I mean, that's probably an A+ to a B+ hire for me. Good on Craig for that. Dustin Lynn and Brady North. I was really excited about Brady North myself. I actually wanted him as the head hitting coach when he was let go out of Tampa Bay. Dustin Lynn coming from a good organization. I expected pretty big things considering the offensive players that we had here. And to start the season, they struggled bad. It was downright ugly. Gunnar was terrible, kind of still is struggling. Pete to start off wasn't really all that hot. Taylor Ward was walking a ton and hitting a ton of doubles and then went dead cold. Cowser kind of start the season was real bad again. A lot was going wrong. Sammy looked good, Adley looked good. Some guys looked good early on. And then things kind of fell apart a little bit, and then they've gotten pretty good since May 20th. Since they've gotten swept by Tampa, things have looked up on the offensive side of the ball. Now, there's still some stinkers, and those stinkers happen. And I was actually kind of interested today. What was the stat that I was looking up? How many times they had scored, was it 5 runs and lost since last year? And I want to say, it was like 13 or something like that. And I was like, man, that's a lot. And I was getting ready to send a good old mean tweet out. And I was like, you know what? Let me check other teams real quick and kind of see where the Orioles stack up. And we're talking like Yankees were in the 20s. The Brewers were in the 20s. And these are teams that are good. Red Sox were like 15, 16. Toronto, I think, was like 18. Now, don't quote me on these numbers. I don't 100% remember. But the Orioles relatively actually pretty low. And it shocked me a little bit. And then I'm thinking to myself, like, all right, so even the other day, like, yeah, we scored one run in the 10th inning in that last Angels game, but we didn't score anything at all after the 5th inning. The offense went quiet. Let me look that up. How many times did we score 5 runs and didn't score after the 5th, right? And I got to like 4 out of the 20-something that I found for a different thing. They scored 4 times, or 4 games they didn't score after the 5th. And I was like, all right, so it's not fit my narrative here. So all in all, the Orioles offense has actually been fairly decent. I give them a B. I think a B is fair. Because some guys, obviously, like we talked about it, Leote and Blaze and whatnot, and Basayo's had a pretty good year. I mean, Jeremiah Jackson was insane to start the season. Those guys, they deserve their flowers a little bit, in my opinion. I'll give them a solid B. Maybe a B-. It just depends. Depends on your mood there. I don't care. I'll let you guys talk on that one. But, they've retained Buck Britton, and I've seen a lot of you guys here that were hoping for Buck to be the next manager. Here's my take on that, and I love Buck, and I think Buck would probably be a really good manager, but you're only putting yourself right back in the same situation that we're angry about right now, right? We're angry about Craig Albanese being here and not having enough experience, and they should have went with a veteran manager. Why would you bring in Buck Britton? Now, granted, he's been here for a bit, but he's also a guy who's never managed. So you're just back at square one. So I don't think they go the Buck Britton route. Craig was a hot hire around the league. A lot of teams wanted him. A lot of teams wanted Donnie Ecker to be their manager. And we're fortunate to get both of these guys here. Buck, I think, plays a good role. But again, going forward, I don't think you go backwards and bringing in another young manager, regardless how long he's been here. I think you got to find a way to kind of just keep moving forward. Now, all of these guys that are good nowadays they've all started young at one point, right? Alex Cora started pretty young. Aaron Boone started pretty young. Kevin Cash started pretty young, right? But they took their lumps. Now, some of those guys obviously came into elite franchises and won immediately. But several good managers around baseball, they come in and they take their lumps year one. It's how you respond to that is how I think you're going to do well. I think Craig is here throughout the year for sure, and through next year, or at least starts the season next year. I think there's a 0% chance we see Craig dismissed at any point. Like I said, I think he's done a pretty good job. Even if Elias gets fired somehow, I don't think. I'm pretty sure Craig Albanese stays as well. I think they're pretty happy with him. I think the players are pretty happy with him. But overall, I'll give Craig a B as well. Maybe I think B minus. B minus is fine, right? He's taken some lumps as a rookie manager. He's had some growing pains to learn through. He's had some good guys to sit behind and learn, which is great. And I think he's done some good things. But Craig's going to be here for a while, in my opinion, at least from what I've heard. They're absolutely in love with the guy. He's going to be here for a while, but I don't, like I said, even if Elias is gone, I still think Craig's still here. Like that's how highly they think of him, around the team. But you know, we'll get into some of the other stuff here too. So defense and fundamentals, right? And then we touched on this just a little bit with Miguel Cairo. And that was a guy that didn't even touch about with Albie. This one's it's a touchy subject because it's hard to grade. Because like I said, some guys have played great. I mean, you can't take away what Pete Alonso has done, right? And you can't take away what Leote did in the beginning of the season. And, you know, what Jeremiah Jackson was doing early on in the year. Like, you can't take that stuff away from when you kind of lump defensive fundamentals into things. But, there's a but here. It's been bad, collectively. Do you blame Miguel Cairo for that? This is where I don't know, right? You can't just always blame somebody, right? Sometimes the players get a little bit of a blame, right? Gunnar Henderson at times, I think he's made some errors due to lack of focus. I think Jackson Holliday has gotten a little bit better this year at second base compared to what he was at last year. I still don't think he's probably at the level that most fans want him to be at. And I think that's fair. Still is the 10th youngest player in the league. I'd give him just a little bit more time. But again, when you look at, you know, Adley and Basayo, I think their defensive has gotten better than what we expected. Pete, obviously, way better than what we expected. I think Taylor Ward has become serviceable in left field. You know, early on it was ugly. I don't want to blame Dylan Beavers here because he's been out, but the outfield defense got better once he got out. But I think that's because you had to shift Cowser into the corner and kind of force play him for a little bit, even when he was struggling. But we all know Cowser is a good defender, and he kind of solidified things down a little bit. So, but there's just a bonehead mistake sometimes. Just a bonehead mistakes. And obviously recently bias here. Keegan Aiken not running the correct route yesterday in the Angels. He just didn't run and cover first base correctly, right? Terrible angle towards the bag. Didn't get the little banana loop that you're supposed to and kind of get to the line and run up. He kind of run diagonal. At that point, like, you're screwed there because even if you catch the ball, then you got to turn around and look for the bag and kind of move around with your feet. It was a bad play on Keegan Aiken's part. It was a bad play on Pete Alonso's part. It was where they had them lined up against the lefty that deep in the hole. He should have never took the step to his right. He did. Basically took himself out of the play within one step. Keegan should have been there. You know, Chenault is not that fast. But that's the little things. Did we saw it in the Dodgers series? You had Tyler O'Neill. He threw home. It didn't affect anything. He probably shouldn't have. Probably should have hit the cutoff man because that wouldn't have affected anything either. No runners were advancing anyway, whether he threw the ball home or to the cutoff man. The effort on me, and some people got on me about only picking on Basayo there. Look, you only get so many characters on Twitter to really talk about some of this stuff. To me, it was just the effort. You could blame O'Neill all day for throwing it there. It was just the effort, like kind of trying to stab at it, knowing there's a guy on third by Basayo. But that's a young kid. They lost the game because of the play, not because of him, but because of the play. Obviously, when it hits off the glove and goes up the third baseline, Ryan Helsley can't do anything at that point. So because of the play, that was me. I just, look, throw your body in front of that. I don't care how. Just keep it in front of you. Like, that's just your job. Just a bad fundamental thing. It was just bad timing. You know, the Gunnar play and the Jackson play a couple weeks ago when they made like back-to-back errors. It's just been little things here and there, like Tavares kind of like handcuffing himself, trying to catch a ball like this in right field against the Dodgers. Just little things. Has been in inopportune times, right? You can make mistakes on a baseball field because they happen to everybody, man. They really do. The Orioles only seem to make them when the going gets tough, when it's a tight ball game, when it's late, when you almost feel like it should be routine. Is that a mental thing? Is that a coaching thing? I don't know if you can. See, here's where I'm torn because yes, when you make the same mistakes over and over and over, that's a coaching thing. But we don't see the Orioles make the same mistakes over and over and over too often, right? It's the dumbest way you can possibly look at. I don't know if you can blame coaching on that. I really don't, because it's just, I think the game in that moment moves too fast for these guys. And I don't know why. Because they play well for 7 innings. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh God, we're in a 1 or 2 run game. Like, and then just everything tightens up. I don't get that. That's not coaching to me, because they go over the fundamentals all the time. And 90% of the time they're doing it right. It's just those big moments that they keep doing it all wrong. And that's tough. Yeah, make too many errors in tight ball games. I don't get that. Somebody said, how much is it coaching? How much is it low baseball IQ? So I think that's the question we all need to have answered for us, Richard, because I think it's low baseball IQ. And I'm lumping that in with when the going gets tough. You know what I mean? Like they allow the game to speed up at certain times. Certain times they just make the play and we don't even talk about anything. But I mean, for the most part, they make the plays. And that's why it's a tough situation. Yes, this right here, the Orioles would be 2026 champions if they got it down to 7 innings. Actually, I shouldn't say that because they can't hit starting pitching. They don't start hitting till the 7th inning most of the time. But yeah, baseball IQ at times is low. It's low, and I don't know if they're just like too much going on. Maybe they're thinking too much, and we'll get into the analytic stuff here. I'm already been live for 47 minutes. I haven't taken a drink yet. Y'all are amazing. Let me just say that a double time. I have 200 comments here right now. 200. Y'all are amazing. I can't thank you enough. This was just a spontaneous. I was literally sitting on bed at 8:30 and told my wife, I should probably go live tonight. It's just been a little bit since I've been by myself, right? Been a crazy baseball year. And if you guys don't mind me ranting about it, you know, I coach Little League baseball. My son is 7. And I've been coaching him for a couple of years now, and we went after it this year. I got a team that I knew with most of my same guys, so we were practicing 2-3 days a week. We had games 2 days a week. Like, we were getting after it, and I have missed a lot of time this spring season to get on here and do this kind of stuff with you guys. We did win the championship. These boys put in a lot of work, and I thank my parents. They got them there. I know you guys probably don't care about us. And now we're in Summer All-Star. So the time that I've had has been very sparse to sit down here and just chat with you guys. So for me to find just a random Thursday night, and for 200 and some comments to be in here right now, and over 100 and some of you being here watching on Twitter right now, 173 on Twitter and 70 right now on YouTube. I can't thank you guys enough from the bottom of my heart, honestly. It's really cool to be able to sit here and just talk ball with you guys. And I appreciate that more than anything, right? Because I just love talking ball. But, if we get here, so I see somebody said we should trade Adley and Gunnar. You trade Adley for like Logan Webb or like Seth Hernandez or something for the Pirates, like their number 1 prospect. I don't think trading Adley does this baseball team any good at all, personally. Trading Adley and relying on Basayo to be a full-time catcher, I don't think this organization wants Basayo to be a full-time catcher. Now he's played well. I think, most catchers, their averages dip, their home run power dips. That's been in baseball for hundreds of years. And I don't think they want that for Samuel Basallo. I think they realize that the bat talent is so elite that you want him healthy and the legs good more times than not. Now, they've sat him a little bit this year and not played him in certain situations. But going forward, you don't want Samuel Basallo to be a catcher. You just don't. You want him to play like Yordan Alvarez and just hit the absolute missiles all day long over the ballpark. You got to keep his legs healthy for that. You got to keep his back healthy for that. You got to keep his elbows healthy for that. He's been a guy who has struggled to stay healthy in his minor league career so far. So to trade Adley Rutschman puts you significantly behind, in my opinion, right? Because he's been a pretty decent defensive catcher. And more times, can I say that more times than not in his career, he's been a hitter? I guess about even, because he went through 2 solid years where he kind of struggled. But for the most part, you know what you're getting of him at least. To throw that away and have a start over either with somebody young or a free agent, I think puts the Orioles farther back than it would be just to keep him, in my personal opinion. Now, would he fetch? Now, like I said, I mentioned Logan Webb. If I trade Adley Rutschman and I get Logan Webb out of it, I'm going to figure out a way around it. Even if it's for 2 years, if Sammy Basallo had to catch every day for 2 years, I'd deal with that. I got Logan Webb out of that. Or Seth Hernandez somehow, I'm going to deal with that. But I'm not trading Adley unless it's for a freaking haul. Because like I said, it puts you behind. I like this here. You already know us O's fans. We all just want the O's to win a lot of games. That's what we're all here. We just want to figure out what's wrong and hope they figure it out too. I think we all sit here every night and try to figure out what's wrong for them. I do it myself, because yeah, we all do. We all do want to see this team win. They won't re-sign Adley after next year, so they need to trade him at some point. See, I think they do try to extend Adley this year. I do. Because of the reasons that I said. I think they know that trading him or not bringing him back kind of puts the team behind. Now, the question is how long do you sign him? He's already, 28 or turning 28. So I think like a 3 or 4 year deal is pretty respectable for him. I don't see him long-term transitioning to first base or hitting enough to be a DH. Maybe he could, but he hasn't really showed it enough in the last couple of years. But you take a 3-year gamble on him still being a defensive catcher. The numbers and the metrics will go down eventually, obviously. But if you get 2 solid years out of him and you get him to 30, at some point you would think you have somebody else available. Now they tell me, Joe Singley tells me they love Ethan Anderson. They love that guy. Could he be a guy that maybe takes over? He's more of an offensive guy. Cree Willems is more of an offensive guy. And I don't think going 2 offensive catchers is the right thing to do, in my opinion. Unless you think one of their 2 offense or their defenses could match what Adley does. Then I'd say, okay, go ahead and trade Adley. Adit here said 7 years, way too long for Adley Rutschman. You're having until age 35 and you don't have the DH spot available. And way too long for him. You give him a 3-year deal and see if he takes it. In my opinion. But trading Gunnar, this franchise can't go back and lose that kind of player again. Now, granted, he struggled this year. I'll give you that. Guys go through struggles. They go through struggles at times. Gunnar's still a fantastic ball player. And trading him, I think ruins all of this. Now, granted, we haven't won a playoff game in 8 years. What is this that I speak of? But going forward, are we a better baseball team without Gunnar Henderson? I don't think we are. Regardless of the struggles right now or not, I don't think we're a better baseball team without Gunnar Henderson. That's like me trying to convince you that we were a better baseball team without Manny Machado. Now, Manny's a better player. Obviously, he's on a trajectory for the Hall of Fame. But you're looking at a guy who is still only 24 years old. Like, that's tough, man. That's tough. That would be like trading Corey Seager in his prime. Now, obviously, Seager has been a better hitter up until this last year, but I think losing Gunnar Henderson puts you back 5 steps. Because you don't have anything to fill him with. 2, there's nothing free agent-wise that you could fill him with. So then you're back to playing with guys like, you remember the years that we had Freddie Galvis and, God, who was guy at the Padres just 2 years ago? He was a good glove. I can't remember his name, but you're back to playing those kind of guys at shortstop. That 1 year free agent guy and that's if Aloy even sticks at shortstop. He is losing Gunnar Henderson would really kill this team. And so it's funny that you say this, Wilk. As Paul and I talked about this one Sunday night, and we looked it up. The dude hit 374 last year with runners in scoring position. I think it was over 400 in high leverage with runners in scoring position, late and close. Last year he was on point. Jose Iglesias, thank you for that, Jackson. On freaking point last year, Gunnar was. He's having a bad year right now. 2024, he had a pretty solid season. It wasn't as good as last year, but obviously he was hitting all the home runs and whatnot. I just think Gunnar's having a bad year. They happen sometimes in baseball. They just do. I mean, look at Vlad. Vlad tore the cover off the ball last year. He's on pace for 7 home runs this year? Maybe 9. Tatis Jr. He's got 3 home runs right now. Like, these things happen, man. They happen in baseball. To want to trade Gunnar after 81 struggling games. I mean, the guy hit 17 home runs last year, hurt. That intercostal injury, I've had one, man. It took me like 9 months and I don't even do anything. I'm not even a professional baseball player. I coach Little League, and it took me 9 months to just not feel it anymore. And I primarily don't have to hit and throw every day. So, I mean, like, I would say 75% of Gunnar's season last year, he was feeling something and still hit 17 home runs and still hit 374 runners in scoring position. Recency bias is a bad thing, but I think Gunnar Henderson long term is still the best option for this baseball franchise. Obviously at the right price. I think a $300 million deal for Gunnar Henderson over 7 or 8 years. Again, he's 24 years old, is beautiful because he gets to hit free agency again at 32, right? It's great for the Orioles, and it's great for him, in my opinion. Boris may think Boris is going to play the hard card if he can. If he gets enough people buying into it like he did with Soto, was worth $700 million, right? He's going to get 500. But if enough people stop buying into it that Gunnar Henderson is going to get 500, Ellie De La Cruz is going to get 500, they're not going to get 500, right? They're just not. But I think you got to hang on to Gunnar. And I think it's more about, does Gunnar want to stay here? And that's a good point. But they're doing all the right things to keep Gunnar here right now. They're just not clicking. And a lot of that is the Orioles got to figure out why the hell they can't perform in April. It's been a couple of years now. Their pitching has struggled for a couple of years now. But I don't know. And this is a good point too. And this is why you got to wait it out sometimes, is what happens if he struggles again next year? He's still under contract, right? So, and then you can look at it, right? So it's not like his value is still high regardless of what his numbers are right now, right? Because he had a 9 WAR season one time, and he had almost a 6 WAR the season after that, even while he was hurt. He's going to finish probably close to another 6 WAR again this year, even if he struggles. It's you got to wait it out the rest of these 80 games, because a lot can happen in the second half. We watch guys do it all the time. And Austin Hayes hit 360 that one year in the first half, and then hit like 230 in the second. You know, guys get hot all the time in the second half. Like, things for some reason just flip. When guys get home for a little bit, they get to kind of hang out with their family a little bit and get back to their old hitting coaches and their dad and their moms, and everything kind of just resets for them, and then they come back out on a tear. So I would like to see Gunnar Henderson for the rest of the season before making any kind of rash decisions against him. Michael Smith says he's overrated, didn't have a good year last year. I think he had a great year last year for being hurt, personally. I don't think he's overrated. The only part you could say he's overrated on is just Scott Boras doing his job, like just trying to make you think he's worth 500. That's just, again, he's doing his job. He's trying to make people think that. But I think Gunner's more than fine. I mean, he plays an adequate shortstop. He's a top 10 shortstop in the league, even though he makes some errors. He hit well last year, runners in scoring position, even while he was hurt. He still hit 17 home runs while hurt. He's just struggling right now. And for the people that I talk to, they think he's close. I think a lot of it's just kind of pulling off the ball a little bit. You get Gunnar hitting the ball back to left center field, and I think you're in a good spot. You'll have old Gunnar Henderson back. But the guy's on fire. I mean, he plays hard. I think the guys feed off his energy when he gets going and stuff. So we'll see. But I don't think they can afford another Manny Machado situation here. But, I mean, it's Nichols said, I'd love to hear your opinion on Gunnar at third. Listen, I'm a big fan of Gunnar Henderson at third base. I think he helps the team. I don't think he's hurting the team at shortstop. If you had a better shortstop to put there, Gunnar Henderson's a fantastic third baseman. Problem is you don't have a fantastic shortstop to put there. You're not going to acquire one. You're not going to sign one because there's not really any available, and you don't have any in your system. So you're kind of stuck with him at short. I don't know. And I see a lot of people talk about this too. I highly doubt we see baseball next year. I'm the complete opposite. When you start putting guys insurance and their family insurance, and a lot, the one thing I don't hear anybody talk about, and it always makes me laugh too, is these TV deals. We're not going to have a season, or we're going to miss so many weeks of baseball. These guys physically cannot miss that much baseball without forfeiting billions of dollars to these TV companies. Like it's one thing a lot of people kind of don't think about. Like Apple TV, they prepay for some of these games. Sunday Night Baseball at ESPN, prepaid. Roku TV games. You're not canceling those games. You're just not. So I don't see it happening. And nobody's really talking about that. But nobody's forfeiting. These owners aren't forfeiting billions of dollars to these pre-made TV deals. They're contracted to air these games. So they have to air something. Right now, if they do have a strike and then you have minor league players playing or something, it's still baseball, but they're going to play these games at some point. They may miss a little bit, and they may eat a little bit, a couple $1 million here and there to some of these TV deals and whatnot. But for the most part, they're not forfeiting all this money that's prepaid, in my opinion. That's just me. I don't know. There's not a lot of people talking about that, but they don't want you to know about that. But the players too, man, like when they miss time, they don't have medical insurance. And you've got a lot of players with kids, right? And all of a sudden your kids don't have medical insurance. Your wife doesn't have medical insurance. Your pregnant wife doesn't have medical insurance. The pressure gets turned on a little bit. And, you might be able to say, oh, I can go without insurance. Yeah. Tell me about that. Once your kid falls off the bike and breaks his arm, you don't have insurance. Tunes change pretty quickly when all that finally hits the door. So to me, I think we're going to have baseball next year. Pretty confident we're not going to miss a whole lot of time. I see these erroneous CBA things right now that they're talking about, and that's fine. I think they're supposed to put some of this stupid stuff out sometimes. They got to see where they can start. They got to see where the line is. They got to see what they can push back on. They've been doing the same stuff for years. The difference was last time we had a CBA, there wasn't as much social media to talk about all this stuff. This isn't anything different, in my opinion. At least I'm hope I'm right. If they can find a way out of these TV deals, good for them, and miss some baseball, that'd be funny. But, who knows, man? I just don't see like Apple being like, oh yeah, sure. We only paid $25 million to air this baseball tonight with the Red Sox and Yankees, but we're just gonna not play. Do you think that's gonna go over well? That's not gonna go over well for anybody. Even the local TV deals. I mean, I know obviously like we'll say like Masson and whatnot. These teams lose money not airing these games, and some of these teams can't even afford that to not do that either. So I think owners right now are going to act like they have the ball in their court. They don't. They want to save a little bit of money, but they know they have to make money too, in my opinion. But all in all, the half a season that we've had so far, the 81 games, going on with what they told us in the offseason, like, and the end of last year, David Rubenstein made us think that, this was a World Series baseball team and they were going to go for it. And rightfully so, they should. And I think you have to hold them to that standard. I do. I think you have to hold them to that standard. This is not a World Series baseball team right now. Hell, they're not even a wild card team right now. They're still a game and a half out. There's time to turn it around. But I think we need to hold them to the standard of what they made us believe. I think you got to go with a D plus, maybe a C minus. And I think a C minus would be generous, but I think it's also probably on par. A D plus would it would probably make you guys feel good. I don't think they played that terrible though. They've played terrible, but not that terrible. They've had some good moments. But I think a solid like C minus for this first half. And I'm talking like, if we put it on a percentage scale, we're talking like a 70. Like, so we're really close to that D. There's been some left to desire. There's been some good moments. There's been moments that we're saying, okay, you know what? I've seen enough. The Orioles are back, and then they poop down their leg again. They can't get over that 3-game hump. The pitching kind of shows up, then the offense doesn't. Then the offense shows up, and the pitching doesn't. Like, they just haven't put it together this year. A lot of it may be mental. A lot of it's poor fundamentals. A lot of it's poor fundamentals in the minor leagues, which we can have a whole nother show on that. And like, what Mike Schilt and Cal are doing, I don't think there's no point in getting into that. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people, Jeff Passan alone said like this was probably the most dangerous lineup in baseball. And then they stunk for like April. Like, they were bad. Like, so it was a pretty failed start to the season. And then it got better for a good bit. They got swept out early May, and then they did some sweep into some teams. They played good in Toronto, then they pooped down their leg. It's just it's always been back and forth. This is a good question here. What players have earned an A? I think you got to go with Brandon Young. Bradish, I'd still leave as a B. He's had some rough moments. I'd go Brandon Young, Blaze, and Cano. I've been pretty impressed with Cano. And I think the B tier you could put. I think Bradish is potentially a B tier. I'd say a low B tier, but he's pitched well. Basayo B tier, Alonso B tier. Lodi Taveras I'd put in the B tier right now because of what he was brought in to do and what he helped do for a good bit. I'd put him in a B tier because he wasn't expected to do any of this. He wasn't even expected to make the team, So I'd give him a little bit of a B tier. And who else? Grant Wolfram. I'd give him a B tier. And then like C tier. I haven't seen enough of Holiday right now. I haven't seen enough of Beavers right now. I think Cowser belongs in a C tier. I forgot about Rutschman. I put Rutschman in the B tier. Defense got a little bit better. Offense has been I'd B plus tier, but he's still B tier. Cowser I put in the C tier. I think he's had a fine season. Not great, not bad. He's been hot lately. He's creeping up near the B tier. Taylor Ward I'd probably give maybe a low B tier. I'd give Taylor Ward maybe a B minus tier, maybe a C plus tier. Just because I expected more offensively out of him. Tyler O'Neill, why are we even asking? Why are we even asking? He's on the team, man. He's on the 26, and I root for him to do well when he's in the lineup just because if he doesn't, the team sucks. But, yeah, I mean, for the most part, I mean, Boz I'd put in the C tier. You've seen some flashes of high B tier, and you've seen some flashes of D tier. Same with Trevor Rogers. I put him in a C tier. You've seen the flashes of great, and you've seen the flashes of bad. I would say probably majority of this roster probably sits in that C tier though, and I don't think that's what we expected this year. I really don't. I don't think at all. I think Gunner. I'm gonna put Gunner in a C tier. C tier. I mean, I think defensively he's been okay. He's played near his potential. And I kind of talked about this. The other night with Paul on Sunday night about Gunner's defense. And I felt like over his career, and I need to really go back and look at it, he goes through these stretches where he makes majority of his season errors in like those like couple weeks. And I feel like he kind of was just right in that, where he made all his errors. And that's why recency bias was like, oh, Gunner stinks, Gunner stinks, Gunner stinks. But, a couple of years ago, like he went and made a bunch. It was like 6 or 7 in like 2 weeks. And then he went like, what was it? Like 70 games without making an error after that. And then he did that like close to that a year prior or the year before. It was like 48 games, almost 50 games. Like, and I just think that maybe Gunner was just right through that little patch right there where he kind of booted the ball around a little bit. And we're going to maybe see a good Gunnar Henderson for a long period here. I'm hoping at least. But for the most part, I think Gunner's a good C right now because the offense isn't where anybody expected. But yeah, I mean, who would be the all-star for the O's? It's a good question, man. You're not going to send Brandon Young just because he's a starter. Like, he's not going to play. It's a good question. I mean, maybe Cano, because maybe Cano would get in the game. Maybe Pete as an alternate or a coach's decision. Or maybe Adley. I don't know, man. It's a good question. Nobody's played great. Nobody has played great at all. But what's up, Rick? How you been, bud? Yeah, Gunner only did have eight last year, but remember he had when he made most of them, they were within that that range, that couple week range, and then he just didn't make them again the rest of the year. And I'm hoping that he kind of just went through that same couple week range where he kind of struggled a little bit, and then we see a great Gunnar Henderson for the next several weeks. That's what I'm hoping. But I mean, all in all, I think a C to C minus. I think a C minus is really fair for this baseball team, just because of what they told us, what the aspirations were, and I think everybody kind of needs to be held accountable. Players, front office, coaching staff, I think has done a decent job. Obviously, they're pretty novice here, so they're learning on the fly here. Again, I still think I think a C plus for them is very fair. I don't think they're bad by any means. They've got some guys playing well above expectations. They've got some guys pitching well above expectations. It's just been the guys you expected to be good that have not. The whole SIG, front office, Matt Blood stuff, excuse me. Again, I think you got to roll with a C. They brought guys here that have really contributed well this offseason. They've made some other questionable moves. Obviously, recency bias, having 3 catchers when you were down an infielder and then an infielder gets hurt. You got to have an outfielder play third. Like little things like that. Obviously, it's only one game. You don't want to lose one game because of that stuff. But, excuse me. I know I usually read through a lot of these tonight, but I'm exhausted. Obviously, you could tell by 313 comments tonight, guys. I can't begin to tell you guys how cool that is for me. Like I'm just a Joe Schmo out here talking baseball just because I enjoy baseball, and we're just here chatting away with all you guys tonight. I do appreciate it, man. I really do. I'm trying to roll here. This is a good point here. I'm kind of rolling through. Holiday is so young and got rushed to a crappy minor league system. I can't disagree with that comment. You know, obviously offensively, we saw a lot out of Holiday, and part of me had wondered if like maybe they put too much emphasis on that. Defensively, he was not ready at all. But yeah, I think overall the system was not where it should have been for how good the team was in 23 and 24. I think that's really fair to say about Jackson Holiday. Jackson said Holiday still hasn't done anything well at this point in his career. And I think a lot of that too, with him being a one of one, expectations obviously are crazy high. And then when you come up and you're looped with, you know, Jackson Merrill, and then James Wood came up, and then Jackson Churio came up. At the time, Evan Carter had just come up, and, you know, some other young guy like PCA just came up, and these guys were like, they hit the ground running, man, and they were crushing the ball. Now, some of them have come back down to earth, and some of them are still crushing. And I think a lot of those expectations, seeing these other teams, young guys do it, kind of just really skyrocketed Jackson Holiday's expectations even higher. And he's progressed this year from last year, which I'm happy with. I still think he tries to pull the ball too much. I think he's a great hitter the other way, just doesn't do it enough. I've seen better defensively. I think he's taken a good step for his age. And the second half could get even better. You know, he's still rehabbing, and that hand, it takes a long time for them handmade bones to really get back to how you felt prior. It takes a long time. But I still think he's in a good spot. I do. I'm seeing him get a little bit better every day. And I always say just get 1% better every day. I'm seeing that at a Holiday. There's still some things to work on, but I think he'll continue to get better every year. I just don't think he's going to be at a point where everybody expected a one of one to just light it up. I don't think we ever get that at a Holiday. Man, you are really, really putting in the comments here tonight. I appreciate it. Damn. O's fan KY gifting 5 more memberships. Y'all are crazy, man. I appreciate it, man. I really do. So Rick Arnold got one. Chanty Holland got one. Pocket Watch got one. Patrick Cash Hour got one. Bounty Hunter John got one. Thank you very much. And the Charm City gifted another one here. So we got Michael Witt got one from Charm City. Got a dozen on the night here. Man, thank you guys. Thank you. What was my poll question? I don't even remember now. Oh, can they make the playoffs? I don't even remember. I posted that. What is the poll looking like here right now? All right. So I said, can the O's get right and make the playoffs? I have 64 votes right now. 36% of you said yes. 48% of you said no. 16% of you said hell no. Listen. I'm one of the most optimistic O's fans you're going to meet because it don't matter if it's the O's or the Ravens. I'm going to tell you that they're supposed to win every single game. I don't care what year it is. 2020, 2019, 2018. I expected the O's to win every single night. It's just how I am. So I will sit here until I'm blue in the face and tell you that, yes, the O's can get right and make the playoffs. But it's they gotta show a little bit more, in my opinion. They gotta clean the mistakes up. They gotta clean how they play baseball. in tight situations. They got to clean that up. They got to learn how to step on the throats a little bit. They've been doing better at that as of late. They've been putting better at bats together and whatnot. Very pleased with that. Pleased with the pitching staff. The signs are pointing that this team is on the cusp of starting to play well. The problem is they're still finding a way to lose. And that's what bad teams do. But they're still within a game and a half of the wild card. I don't know how, but they are. They're still within striking distance. They still could find a way to get this going. And they should, right? Because they told us they were going to. They told us this was a World Series team. So I'm expecting them to get this turned around and become a World Series team. So yeah, I think they can get right and make the playoffs. They just have to start doing it. Yes, no more giving away games. That's the big thing. That's what losing teams do. They give away a game. They gotta figure that part out. But yes, this team can do it. They just need to find a way to do it. But got to find a way to jump 5 teams. Look, you still got 81 games to go, man. You still got 81 games to go. I mean, a lot can happen. They could fall apart. They could go through a stretch where they go 2-6 or something like that, or 2-8. The biggest thing here, right? And I love this comment. They got to find a way to stop beating themselves. They got to find a way to stop the bleeding sometimes. And I've seen people make comments on Twitter and whatnot about certain guys kind of being mentally soft. I'm not going to go there because that's not cool. But yes, they do need to find a way to stop the bleeding at times. Even if something bad happens, right? Walk around the mound for half a second. Just find a way to make that pitch. Some guy makes an error. Okay. You know what? Sorry. Errors happen. Find a way to make the next pitch because now that's back on your shoulders. And I think they kind of share the blame and they share the losses together too much. They got to find a way to stop the bleeding when something bad happens. And then they'll start winning those closer ball games, in my opinion. I have no idea who that is, honestly. Gio Rojas. I've seen you say that a couple times, but I don't know enough about the draft yet because I haven't started looking at it yet. What position does he play? Left-handed pitcher from Stoneman Douglas. Where is he projected? I would love for them to grab a left-handed pitcher. Top 15. That just means they're going to have a lot of scouts around. That's for sure. It'd be interesting. I'll have to keep an eye on that name. I haven't even looked into the draft stuff yet. It's coming up, but it's something I don't typically do till right beforehand because you're going to see a lot of these mocks and whatnot, a lot of these things. And look, mocks are cool and all, but it all just depends on who likes you at what. I mean, who had Jackson Merrill going, late 20s in the first round? Not many. Some people called it a reach when San Diego did it. And that turned out pretty good for him, didn't it? So, I mean, baseball's it's a crapshoot. It's a crapshoot when it comes to evaluating some of these younger players. But, it'd be just having an arm would be cool. And they still need bats too. A lot of people are going to get upset if they don't take an arm. They need arms, but they need bats too. They don't have a ton of bats in the minors outside of Frederick right now that are really kind of pushing and knocking on the door too much. I mean, Bowie's a little bit quiet. You got Estrada and Ethan Anderson, Josenberger sometimes, but they're a little quiet, and AAA is a little quiet, and they've got some guys that are hitting, but nobody banging on the door, to come up to the big league club. So I don't know. Just get me a guy that is going to come and contribute pretty quickly. That's all I care about. But I am going to wrap this up. We're an hour and 24 in tonight, and we are 352 comments in. I give you all a little round of applause for that. We're just here talking ball on that point. Appreciate every single one of you guys. What do we have tonight? Like 15, 17, almost 20 gifted subs tonight. Crazy night. Crazy crazy night. I appreciate every single one of you that value me enough as a creator to gift these kind of things, because that means the world to me, honestly. So when I say thank you, I truly mean thank you. It's just a way that I can sit here and just talk ball with you guys. And I love reading your comments, and I love talking with them. And I understand, look, people are rightfully frustrated with this team. You have every right to be. I'm the guy sometimes that tries to keep us all reined in and ready to go for a winning ball club here, because that's all we all want. And I understand when you guys are upset, you just want a winning ball club on the field. You're not just upset just for no reason. Like, you want a winning ball club, and we all do. And I'm upset with you sometimes too. PB9 says, how do you gift a membership? I think it's on website only, as O's fan KY was saying. It doesn't allow you to on mobile, at least when I used to watch some YouTube streams back in the day. I don't know if they ever fixed that or not, but I never pay attention. But again, this is my only day off for a while. We have a tournament this weekend for the Summer All-Star team. And so we have practice tomorrow night, and then we have 2 games on Saturday, and then it's a single elimination, basically, tournament after bracket or pool play on Sunday. So we'll be there all day, and then we turn around. We have practice on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday again. So it's fun, man. It's we're busy all the time. Wednesdays is my daughter does cheerleading too. Charm City said his came from mobile too. Oh, did they fix that? I didn't know you could do that. How do you do it? I see how to do it here, but I don't know how to do it on mobile. Obviously, I'm on a desktop, but it's a little bit different. If you're on your MacBook, it's next to the chat window. It looks like a money sign. It says show your support. And then if you open it, it's either like a super chat, membership, or membership gifting. I think it's fairly new. They're trying to get more like Twitch. But they got a long way to go. They got a long way to go. But you have to be a member. Okay, here you go. You have to be a member in order to give memberships, and push the little dollar icon thing to do it there. Okay. So you have to become a member first, and then you can gift it out to other people. Okay. Ben said, I was happy to surprise to see the notification you were streaming tonight. That's what I was saying early on. I was sitting on the bed getting ready to put the kids to bed, and I told my wife, I was like, man, I haven't been live just by myself in a while. Maybe I should just go down there and do it. And I was like, man, I don't know if I have nothing planned out tonight. Because you guys know me. I like to have the scenes out, and we like to talk through things and whatnot. I had nothing planned out. I was like, but you know what? There's a lot to talk about. We can grade. There's a lot to talk about. And yeah, it was kind of spur of the moment thing. And my OCD was kind of like, no, I need to have my scenes and stuff. But it's worked out. I appreciate you guys big time. I want to do more of this. It's finding the time right now. That's the hard part. But yeah, I'm gonna hop off. Again, we're pushing 400 comments tonight. Truly appreciate every single one of you who came through. I know I said bye about 3 times now. But we will be live again Sunday night with Paul and I doing Paul's show. If you guys are ready to tune in for that one. Hopefully this little homestand here. Are we home? I don't even remember if we're home or not. Either way, hopefully these next 3 games here, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, give us something good to talk about on that show. And I will see you guys then. Thanks for hanging out with me tonight. Peace.